Welcome, Internet, to the PixelPlay Podcast, your weekly gaming podcast where we get together to talk about all things video games. And this week's episode, we're going to be talking about Call of Duty coming to Game Pass, what we think that means for the system, is that going to be enough for Xbox, and all things just kind of preparing for the Xbox showcase. With that being said, I'm joined as always by my co-host Adam at CS Radical and Chris at Jin and Chris. How you guys doing? I know we were off last week, me and you, Chris. We were off vacationing. Adam holding down the fort, carrying.
I was gonna say you guys were off. I fucking wasn't off.
No, you were doing amazing. You held the podcast and like crushed it.
I'm doing all the work around here now. What do I even got you guys for? I should just like hang on. Let's see.
I really don't know what you keep.
I can just take you. Hang on, I'm just working. Let's take you off the air. Okay, good. We got rid of you now. Now you're not here anymore. Okay, we'll get rid of Chris here on the video screen. Okay, perfect. Now everything's all right in the world. We're good to go. Okay, so how's everybody? Just kidding. All right, fine. I'll let you guys back on. All right. You're allowed to be on the show again.
Yay!
All right, glad to be back. I didn't talk specifically because I wanted to make it sound like I wasn't here. But yeah, with that being, like, guys, what have you guys been up to? Like, I know for me, it's been pretty quiet with me being on vacation. I've not surprisingly had much time to play video games. I played a little bit more of Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know, that game kind of didn't click with me too much. I was getting back into it. I've beaten like the 4 main dungeons, and now they're like, go rescue the princess, and I'm like, I want to get the great sword, or master sword, but I don't know where it is, and I don't care.
I mean, it's a great sword.
It is. So I just pivoted, and I'm back to Advance Wars. I'm playing Advance Wars 2 now, and man, what a great game that is.
Oh yeah, I plan on picking that up on Switch. Once I'm like, my backlog on my Switch is gone, because I've only got like 5 games on there that I paid for and got to play. Advance Wars is going to be what I pick up.
Telling you also, Wargroove, indie Advance Wars, go play Wargroove.
Yeah, I have played Wargroove. I have that on Switch, actually. But Kaylan, you've got to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just Advance Wars before it was re-released.
Yeah, it's great. Like you get the 2 games in it, and like they're solid games. Like I'm playing on the casual mode because like I don't want to be thinking too hard of redoing levels, but like even on that basic level, like I'm kind of getting not challenges, but like I'm getting points where I have to like, okay, what am I doing here? And I have to like restart a couple times. But like it's a great game, and like it holds up. Story's garbage. Like you're like a 14-year-old kid and like somehow managing an army. Like I don't know, whatever, but it's a great game just to kind of have around, pick up and play, and then kind of shut it down. Like, I'm really enjoying it.
Love those type of games.
Chris, what about you? Did you get to play any video games this week while you were on vacation?
I did. So my flight back from vacation was at 11:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a 5-hour flight, and I was coming back from a 3-hour time difference. So so it was just under 5 hours, but it ended up being 7:30 a.m. when I landed. And I didn't sleep on the plane. I played video games the whole time. In fact, the flight attendant came over to me and said, "Hey, you're the only person awake on the plane. Do you want coffee?" And I said yes. And I haven't slept since. No, I've actually been having trouble sleeping now. But either way.
Surprise. Who would have thought?
Surprise. I actually got back into the game Xenoblade Chronicles on Switch.
Mm-hmm.
I was really struggling with that one. I was on chapter 5 of like 17, and the first 5 chapters I was like, this is fine, this is fun, but it's just like massive and kind of open worldy and stuff. Like, I don't know, it was a bit much, and I was like kind of getting overwhelmed. But I was like, no, you know what? Just give it like 1 more chapter, and that was my thing. I'm gonna play it a bit on the plane. If after 1 more chapter I don't like it, I'm cutting it off. And conveniently, that's when the game just like picks up story-wise. And I realized like, hey, I'm playing on casual mode, and you get experience for just discovering new areas, but the game is constantly just making you discover new areas. So you get leveled up in casual mode without having to almost fight anything. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna keep going past all the enemies unless I feel like battling. But if I get like bored of battling, I'm just gonna go to the next story point. And now I'm on chapter 14. It just like blew through, and I'm actually really liking it. I'll talk more about it probably when I actually fully beat it. But yeah, it is actually kind of fun. It's a lot more like an MMO than a JRPG. Like you're walking around on this big open area. There's side quests. The side quests suck so bad. They're like, find 4 of this item. Like every single one is just find items, find items, find items, and then you go around.
Great MMO RPG kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's so brutal. So I skip every single one of those. I fight things when they're in my way and I feel like fighting, or I just run past them when I don't care. But this story is great. It's actually picked up a lot. Very interesting. And the voice acting is actually pretty good. It's usually like not as great in these games, but this is like the definitive edition. So I don't know if it's the exact same voice acting from when it was on the Wii. The resolution in the game is rough. Like this is definitely one of those games where it's like it's a Switch exclusive, but holy crap! Like I put it in docked mode, and I'm like, oh, it's so blurry. Why is it blurry? You put it in handheld mode, it's like, oh, it's a little bit better, but still kind of blurry. So it's fun, like story wise, and the music is amazing in it. That's probably my favorite part. Like such good, just chill music. But yeah, you got to be in the okay with like walking for a really long time and a beautiful scenery, but massive. And probably wanting to skip all the battles, ignoring all side quests, and just being there for the nice scenery, the music, and then the next story point. Like it's really that's the game for me, and that's all it's going to be because I cannot stand most of the other mechanics in the game. It's brutal. But besides that, when I got home, I actually started up Hellblade 2. And I did play, I'm on chapter 3, I think, of that game. And it's like there's only like 6 chapters. I think the first couple chapters are pretty short compared to the later ones. Because I'm also, I have just a list of the collectibles because I don't want to go through it again. So I'm not like reading what to do, just where in the point of the story, like, hey, a collectible is at this moment, a collectible is at this moment. And I'm only at like 5 out of 38 collectibles, and I'm already 2 out of 6 chapters. So I'm assuming chapter 3, you're just going to walk in and there's like 20 collectibles on the ground or something. I have no idea. This game is like a cinematic masterpiece. As a video game, I don't know how much of a video game it is. It's very much like Hellblade 1. It is very much like it's about the walking and puzzle solving and story and audio and you know graphics and all that kind of stuff. It's not like, oh, the battles are great. Like I have a friend that I think picked up the first one, is like, oh, it looked kind of like God of War. This is not like God of War. This is not a fun action game at all. There are battles, but they're more, I'd even call them more puzzles because it's more like just you got to hit somebody 3 times and it's like parry and then attack and then you'll take him out and it'll be fine or something like that. But the graphics in this were blowing my mind. I was at a point where the character's laying there and I'm thinking it's a cutscene because of how nice it looks. Like this can't be in-game footage. This is a cutscene. And I'm waiting and it's not moving, so that I pick up the controller and start moving the joystick and the character started moving. And I'm like, wait, this is like in-game, like the in-game engine, and I'm actually moving this character? What the heck is going on right now? Because it should not have looked anywhere near as good as it did when I was at that point in the prologue or chapter 1 or whatever it's called. Yeah, the graphics in this and the audio, like the music is really, really good, but also the sounds when it's like recommended with headphones. They've added even more stuff in this game compared to the first. The first was all about the voices. There's a little bit more to the voices, and also they've done a really good job of cinematic like thunder and stuff that's happening around you, and it's just like it feels like it's around you. There was actually one point where there was the sound of flies behind me, and I actually thought there was a fly behind me, like an idiot in real life. Like it's just like small details, but it's just it's a movie. Like this is just a movie that you are playing that's incredibly well acted, and you know the audio is really great and the graphics are really great and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, as an actual video game, it very much is just explore. There's the odd collectible, the odd puzzle, the odd like battle. That's again more of a puzzle battle than an actual like skill battle. But yeah, I'm actually surprisingly really liking it. Like I'm liking this more than the first one because it's kind of just the first one turned up a notch. Like it's the same exact idea. So
do you find that this is like something comparable to like a Sony exclusive? Like I know no, okay,
not like. So the thing is that a Sony exclusive, like all of those, are big, long, story-driven games. Would I say this story could be equivalent to one of the like stories of a Sony exclusive? Absolutely. Do I think as a game that could hold its own against a Sony exclusive? No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Just because it is This to me feels like a side game. This feels like
Okay.
something that is very impressive, but would have released in between two AAA games that Microsoft would have put out. Like, here's Starfield and Redfall. These are amazing. We have another game coming, but just to cleanse your palate, here is Hellblade, which is this graphic kind of thing. And I just feel like it's just, it was meant for that.
Okay.
It's kind of like Plague Tale Requiem, I would put it
Yeah.
next to. It's got that kind of feel where it is more about the puzzles. That one has a bit more battles and stuff, and this is obviously way more impressive graphically. But yeah, I would say it's more along the lines of like that. It's a game meant to be in the middle, like a AA game that has a AAA game budget with graphics and audio and acting.
It's
and
a
everything
dark
like
hi-fi rush.
It's a dark hi-fi.
Oh no!
Really fucking dark.
Oh no, that's not good for Ninja Theory.
No, apparently they're not closing. Apparently. Yeah, and I'm never sleeping again. The game is creepy as shit when you play with headphones, but I need to do it now. Like, now that I've experienced what it's like to wear them and go through like the music and the thunder and the voices and all everything happening, I don't think I could play it off the TV now. So I'm just never gonna sleep because of the creepiness of the voices.
Yes, it's the game and not the coffee.
The coffee. Okay, it's both. It's both. It is both.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna download that this week and like I'm gonna try and get through it this week. I've not turned on the PlayStation since getting back. Yeah, I might take a slight break on Rise of the Ronin.
You mean Xbox?
Go and play. I haven't turned on either. I haven't turned on the PlayStation or the Xbox. So you gotta dust the Xbox off for sure. That's that.
Yeah. You gotta dust that off. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Adam, what about you? What have you been up to?
I have two games that I've been playing right now, and they are absolute polar opposites of the other, so it's a great thing to kind of put next to each other. So I'm going to start with the absurd one, and that is a game that, and this is the title, Death Bulge Battle of the Bands. Which, as I explained to Chris, it's the equivalency of like what would happen if you had Adventure Time and Death Clock getting together and having a JRPG baby. And that's basically what it is. It's a JRPG with sort of a cartoon aesthetic of like a Saturday morning cartoon aesthetic with like a lot of heavy metal referencing into it. And you fight with the power of like metal music and whatever else. And it's all in all, like, it really does feel like the silly, wacky YTV cartoons we grew up with, just in JRPG form. So you play as Faye, who is a budding musician who accidentally joins a battle of the bands that, is being run by a demon that if you don't win, you will die. So your souls are on the line.
Happens.
It happens to everybody.
$1 for every time.
You sit there with your flying V haircut while you have your skeleton best friend who fights with a double bass. Yes, that's what he has. And your luchador drummer who you don't see on screen yet if you're watching on YouTube. But it is a game that, like, I love and I hate at the same time. I love it because it is fucking stupid, and it's the best kind of stupid. You're literally, if you're watching right now on screen, they're in what is called the Tonewood Forest, and you'll notice the reason that it's toned is because the trees all have abs. Get it? You get it?
Yeah.
And then just so the amount of dumb humor, like this feels like peak 90s cartoons, like stupid, like Ren and Stimpy humor. Every time you want to open a door, you don't open it, you just kick it. And every time you enter that building, when you've kicked the door open, you see exactly where you've lodged the door in the wall. It's all its special thing, except for the ones you can't open, which is a real shame, and you get very mad about it. But I love that. I think the battle system is actually really clever. Like Chris, it's an ATB system, but you actually see the bar, and as you go up, you'll realize there's 4 quadrants. And you can fill those quadrants with either negative or positive status effects. So what I normally do is I'll use attacks that cast burn on their quadrant, because you see the enemy's ATB as well. So every time they hit that quadrant and it's on fire, they take damage periodically as they go up the bar. Coincidentally, you could do like a heal spell or basically a haste or a speed spell where for those quadrants you go faster or you heal HP back. So there's a lot more to it than just wait your turn. Now it's, hey, you want to make sure that you're trying to keep your bar as healthy as possible while also getting their bar to be as negative as possible to try and end the battle as quickly as you can or survive as long as you can, depending on the situation you're in. So all that's great. The problem is the fucking battles stop being like fun after a while because you need to grind a lot. It definitely has that old school JRPG flair where you probably should be grinding a little bit, or you have to do what I always hate doing, which is learn how to use status effects properly and mix everything up. And I go, but I don't want to. I just want to overpower it. And they definitely overdo it on the XP gains that you get as you get higher and higher levels in areas, because I feel like I'm not leveling up very fast anymore. So I'm like, oh, I must be at the point that I can just kind of go breeze through now. And then I'll do fights and I go, these are taking longer than they should. Why is that? But I don't want to do 50 more battles to gain like one more level. I don't want to do this. There's no mods to help me, so I'm kind of screwed on that front. So I'm at that point where it's like, man, like I really like this game a lot. Like all the designs are amazing. Like I love the aesthetic of it. Fuck is it making me grind and I don't like it because it's not nearly as fun as some other games can be.
And the second one you're playing?
The second one I'm playing is, well, yeah, it's definitely a polar opposite of that. It is called Ready or Not, which is a SWAT team first-person tactical shooter.
Okay.
And I like it a lot. It's very much similar to how like Rainbow Six always has been. And I mean that in a good way, not the breakpoint like Ghost Recon or the other like really bad sixes. I'm talking like the old school ones like Rainbow Six Vegas, for example, like the good old days where it was, yeah, you got to actually not just charge into every room and fire blindly. No, you don't have like health that respawns, or you don't have regenerating health or anything. If you die, you're done. Like mission's done. Tough shit. I will say though, as I've only played like a few missions, but I can already say for certain, if you are a person that is very affected by either like grotesque or gore or violence or very very dark issues related to crime, I won't say what because I don't want us to get in trouble on YouTube because there are certain words that they won't like. But for example, there is a mission where you find certain very illegal photos of people in the very most unkind way. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, they aren't pulling punches. And it's definitely not for everybody. I will say that for me, it's okay. I can handle that stuff. And what it does is it also shows a much more realistic look at what it is, because a lot of games that play this thing, it's just, oh, it's a bunch of terrorists. Oh, there's people, holding people hostage in a bank and you're trying to save them. No, this is you going into a like very poor neighborhood and dealing with meth addicts and dealing with, an operation there. It's you dealing with a hostage situation in a convenience store. I haven't gotten to it yet, but there is apparently a mission that is very much reminiscent of Columbine. They don't pull punches. They do not hide from subject matter. So I will say, if you love this kind of stuff, this is a game for you, unless there are certain subject matter that you do not want to deal with, because this does all of it, and it doesn't hold back. I legitimately was going to say, Chris, one of our friends, I was going to say, like, this game's really cool, but I know you can't play it, because the first mission you literally see, in that convenience store robbery, you see a dead person on the floor as well as a dog shot as well. It's not hiding what it is. It's very, very surreal and very darkly realistic. So it's an interesting game. I think it's actually really cool, but it's also one that it's like, yeah, if you got a not a strong stomach, you're not going to handle a lot of this stuff, because there's some pretty dark shit in this game.
I like the lighting in the game.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
It is for the actual kind of game it is. I love it. It's great, especially because too, your party members, you can outfit them however you like. So if you want to keep people with riot shields, if you want to have shotguns, you got all that customization. But they also have a mental stability status. So if they get really injured in a mission, or if you fail a mission, have to go back, like you could start saying, oh, this person's now anxious, so they start coming with extra debuffs, like maybe their accuracy isn't going to be as strong in the next mission, so that carries over as well, kind of in the same way of like how in XCOM, if guys got really hurt, they couldn't go into battle for a couple of days, so you have to put them to the side and bring somebody else in, but now they're a little scared because they know that, oh god, like look what happened to Joey last time we went out, like that kind of stuff. Like it does take a much more realistic and much more grounded look on things, rather than being more of a more of like an action hero sort of shooter. It's definitely not this. It's hard as fuck too. I actually have put on some mods to give it a little more kind of in the same way that what I did with Elden Ring, not to the extent that the Elden Ring easy mod does, but I gave myself a little more health because it's way too easy to die if you're not paying attention. I literally walked in, all of a sudden, guy rounds the corner, bang, 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 I'm done. And I'm just like, that's cool, but also I want to finish you at some point. So I got to give myself at least some sort of a chance. So now I can take, I don't know, like maybe 6 bullets. I'm working my way up.
Nice.
But yeah, it's honestly like I would highly suggest it if there's anybody that can handle the subject matter. But like as a tactical shooter, I love this game, and it's nice to see, somebody that isn't like got a Tom Clancy label on it or something. Now, I'd like to see Sony get off their ass and make another SOCOM and kind of test out that theory. But hey, that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, this looks really cool.
That does look cool. That does.
Speaking
and yes,
of
polar opposites there, Adam. Definitely polar.
Yeah, look,
those two games.
what better way to kind of balance things by having a ridiculous Saturday morning cartoon JRPG and then a grisly fucking realistic tactical shooter? It works out perfectly.
Yeah. Talking about first-person shooters and stuff, I wanted to talk about Call of Duty this week. We have a Xbox showcase coming next week after. What day is it today?
It's
we
like
have one
a
coming
week
in
and a half,
like in a
or 2
bit,
weeks
yeah.
almost. Yeah.
So one of the rumors going around is that Call of Duty is going to be coming to Game Pass. We've not made any secrets about it. It's no secret in the industry. Xbox and Game Pass are not doing as fantastic as Microsoft would want. And with Xbox bringing Call of Duty to Game Pass, do you think that this is, one, the right move for Call of Duty? Do you think this is the right move for Game Pass? Do you think this will bring people to Game Pass?
To answer one of the questions, will it bring more people to Game Pass? Yes. Yes, it will. There's no doubt about that. The question of whether or not it's good for either Call of Duty itself or for Game Pass is a much more interesting question. I think with Game Pass, for the time being, it will help it. It'll boost its numbers up. I don't know if in the long term that will help Call of Duty, though. It'll bring more attention to it day one. It'll obviously make the multiplayer, an even bigger deal than it normally is, because now you don't have people having to spend, $70, $80 on a game, especially a guy like me who likes playing only the single player campaigns these days. Means I've got to wait, 7 years for it to fall under $30 so I can finally play them. Still waiting for you, Microsoft to put all the other old ones that I still haven't played on there. I'd like to get around to that at some point, but I guess we'll see about that. I think, honestly, if I really had to put money on it, I don't think this is a good decision for Call of Duty, because I think we come back to that same conversation of, is this just going to be another case where they're not making enough money back on their investments? And now with taking away the physical sales for the vast majority of Call of Duty sales, like now what are you going to see? Like maybe 5% of people buy a physical copy of it? That's going to be not nearly as much money. And I don't think they're going to make up that 95% as just an arbitrary number here in Game Pass subscriptions that they gain. I don't think you're going to gain enough subscriptions to kind of balance that out. Now, does that mean anything if you're putting it on other platforms like PlayStation or PC? That might help, but I think you're probably doing yourself a bigger disservice. I think there are certain games, and I know we've had this conversation before, I think there are actually certain games that should be above a Game Pass, or if PlayStation was a little more liberal with their day one releases, that there are certain games that shouldn't have that treatment. I think Call of Duty is right now your golden goose. You should be leaving that alone. Now, from my perspective, I don't care. That's one more game I don't have to pay money for apart from my monthly subscription, so I'm happy. But from a business perspective, I don't think it's a great idea, but I'm also not a business major, so what the hell would I know? And that's not my job.
That is true. That is true.
Chris, where do you fall on this? Do you think this is good for for Game Pass, and do you think this is good for Call of Duty? Or either?
So I think it's good for Game Pass. If it was just like Microsoft didn't care about, getting return on investment with the actual games and stuff, with what they paid for Activision Blizzard and all that, and it's kind of like, hey, we've already broken even, we're good, but now let's just use this advantage to make Game Pass go up. Yes, I think that this will help Game Pass being more of an attractive service. Because of course, instead of paying $80, like me and Adam, definitely, this is how we'd play Call of Duty. We're not going to buy it. This is where we would go play the single player campaign. That's what I care about. Play it. I didn't have to pay $90 for it and wait 7 years and it's still only getting 50% off at $40. Like all the other ones apparently. Yeah, so I think it will help Game Pass. But it is I am very curious where I would want to see the numbers of how much would have Xbox made if they made it where everybody had to buy the game versus how much they're going to make from the increased Game Pass numbers over the next 3 months. Say 3 months probably is a good number, where people would buy Game Pass for 3 months to play this before maybe they get sick of it and don't want to renew. I am curious, like kind of how those will balance out. Maybe they're hoping some people will subscribe to Game Pass and just let it keep going. They just don't cancel it, like a lot of people with Netflix. It's like, oh yeah, I've got to renew my Netflix, and all of a sudden it's been 6 months, and it's wait, I'm still paying for Netflix. That's happened to me.
That's me with Game Pass right now.
Yeah, and there you go, right? So
yeah, like my wonder is, with the amount of people like myself and yourself too, Chris, that we just haven't been playing Call of Duty for the longest time. I wonder if maybe Game Pass might offset things a little bit too by bringing a lot more people back in. Maybe that's their strategy too, bringing Black Ops 6 finally to Game Pass as a way to be like, maybe they see their numbers dwindling and go, you know what, maybe we should try this, see if we can get a bunch of people back in, and maybe the next Call of Duty we don't put on Game Pass again, see if that actually, makes the needle go up again.
I think there's an issue.
There could be a bunch of ideas they're trying there.
I think there's an issue that if they did go that route where they're like, hey, this one's on Game Pass, but the next one isn't, I think that would leave a lot of sour taste. Like,
yeah, that's kind of the feeling too. It's like if you do it once, that means you got to continue it that way now. So it's kind of like like it makes me wonder like what their thought process of why this one is the one they're finally going to put on Game Pass now.
Yeah, I think it's like a weird situation. Like I can see this being good for it could be good for both or good for neither. Like I don't know how many people you're going to bring into Game Pass with Call of Duty. Like the people who have I don't know how many people I'd imagine I'd be interested to see the numbers of how many people have an Xbox and don't have Game Pass. I don't imagine that it's a high number. I think if you have Xbox, you have.
Well, the big curiosity for me would be PC. If they bring it to Game Pass on PC, I think that's where you could see a very big uptick.
Yeah, so you're going to see an uptick in that. But once again, I think a lot of PC players probably already have Game Pass as well. So, I don't know how it's going to move the needle that much. The real competition you're going for is Sony, and I don't think, unless you have someone who's a PlayStation and a PC owner, I don't see anyone who has a PlayStation or a very small number. I speak, obviously, as someone who had PS5 and I bought it for Starfield. But, if it's already available on PS5, I'm not going to go out and drop $300 to $500 for an Xbox Series X or S.
I think we're at the point now that we can say that they're not aiming to get people to buy a console anymore.
Yeah,
I think we can almost make the case that that's basically gone.
Yeah. So I can see it maybe moving a little bit, but I feel like the lines are made, the camps are decided. I don't think anyone's jumping to Game Pass for Call of Duty. I can see this being good for Call of Duty. That one, if it's not a good iteration, because that game has ebbs and flows of what ones people like and which ones don't. That if it's on Game Pass, the expectation will be a little bit easier that you're not gonna have to worry about having enough numbers for lobbies and stuff. I mean, if it's a bad game, people will still be like, it's free, I'll still give it a check.
I think that's where my concern is too, because I wonder, because I'd have to check, but I wonder what the numbers that internally for them with Vanguard was. And maybe those numbers made them go, shoot, we're really dropping. And what do we got to do? And maybe they're just saying, screw it, let's throw it at the wall and see what happens. Let's see if we can get a boost again. And I mean, I'm noticing just based on this announcement that there is a bit of a buzz again going with it. Now, granted, this could just be, oh wow, it's coming to us for not $80 anymore. Maybe it gets some people back interested. I mean, I'm one of them. It's just a matter of how much of that is people like me, or is it just going to be another case of maybe you add in a couple 100,000, but it doesn't really tip the needle too much. I think that's going to be the ultimate question. I think they'll do pretty well with it for the first time around. It's just a matter of, man, this one better be good then, because if you're going to keep people ready for the next one, this is the one that's going to have all the eyeballs on it now. So you better make good on it.
I don't think it really matters whether it's good or not, because I think it's the fact that now it's quote unquote free, and I know you're paying for the subscription, whatever, but the fact that you're not paying for this particular model, it doesn't have that impetus that it has to be good, or it has to be great. It can be good, right? No one's putting money down to try it out. And what that does is it still gives a steady stream of people coming in and playing and keeping the multiplayer alive, which is the bread and butter of Call of Duty. And the trade-off is as well is that if like you get, let's say, an extra 100,000 people in, if even 10% of that comes in and says, "Hey, I'm gonna put money down. I'm gonna keep playing this." That's 10,000 new players coming into the realm.
Yeah.
So
I
kind of
Oh, sorry. Go.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead. No.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things here. Because one, I think Kaylan, you had mentioned like, oh, I wonder why this is the Call of Duty they're finally doing this for.
Mhm.
I think that they're doing this at this time and using this Call of Duty because, like, say, Adam, like you mentioned, maybe Vanguard didn't sell very well. This is Black Ops, right? This is like a Call of Duty, like a premium Call of Duty. It's not like, oh, it's just one we're trying and it takes place in Russia in 1910. Like, they're not doing one of the different times. It's that Black Ops premium Call of Duty, and everybody, so at least I think to this point still has like a positive feeling about the Black Ops storylines. And
yeah, they've basically
actual
killed
Call of
everything
Duties.
else. Like Modern Warfare is finally dead and buried. I think
Yes.
after the new trilogy they did. So Black Ops is really the last one they have left that seems to have like a mildly favorable opinion still.
Yeah, so I think that them choosing to have Game Pass and make it free and it be like a Black Ops level Call of Duty, like those two things combined are going to create this hype. And I have to imagine with the multiplayer, like I haven't played Call of Duty multiplayer in so long. I have to imagine there might be microtransactions in there.
Oh
Is
yeah,
that even a
there'll
thing?
absolutely be something.
This is something I was going to kind of bring up, is that like it's not revolutionary. Warzone right now is free to play.
Yeah.
Right? So they've already, and like I don't hear many people talk about Call of Duty multiplayer anymore. I hear people talking about Call of Duty Warzone.
Yeah,
And
they kind of really
focus.
made a mistake chasing the Fortnite game and kind of sabotaged their own other games.
I don't know, like if it's got the numbers and you've got people paying for battle passes, like might be where it's going. Like we don't know what the Call of Duty Black Ops, the new one.
Well, what I
looks
mean
like.
is that like you don't see the same hype for a Call of Duty trailer the same way we used to anymore. Like when Modern Warfare 2 or 3, and I'm talking the original ones, or Black Ops 2, or even at the time World War 2 when they brought that one back, like there was significant hype going into those trailers. I have not felt the same buzz for a Call of Duty game in a long time. And that was right around the same time that Warzone came in, because now it started to become like a fragmentation of the player base. Like now some people have leaned towards Warzone, some people have leaned towards, still the regular team deathmatch multiplayer. And then at this point too, the game's been around long enough that a lot of people have just checked out because they've started realizing it's much like your EA Sports games where it's the same thing just with a different coat of paint.
And that's what I was gonna say. Like, I don't know if necessarily Warzone was the cause of the decline in popularity.
No, I think it was one of them.
They may have actually kept it alive. Like maybe if we didn't have Warzone, we wouldn't be saying, "Oh man, Call of Duty's coming out. We're so excited." Or anything. We would be like, "That is still coming out." Like that, they might have actually revitalized themselves and kept themselves.
I mean, to us, I don't think it would have mattered what they'd done. I think we're no longer the target demographic for it anymore. We're not 19-year-old, just coming out of high school kids that just want to hear a bunch of explosions. Or sorry, who am I kidding? A bunch of 12-year-olds that just want to swear all the time on their microphone when their mom and dad aren't at home.
I want to hear explosions.
Yeah, I want to hear explosions all the time.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, sorry. The other thing that I just remembered is, I don't think that they're going to do this at all. I think this has nothing to do with selling the Xbox console. I think that Xbox has kind of decided that they don't want to fight Sony for the console war anymore. Even if they only get, say Sony takes 65% of the market share and Xbox has 35%. They've also got Windows, and now with Activision, they also, like obviously Candy Crush or whatever, they got mobile. Then Xbox has mentioned they're going to have a mobile store and all that kind of stuff. I think they're more just spreading themselves in every market a little bit. And just, if you take 33% from each market, you're still making the same amount of money, but you're not working as hard with competing. Like we have to beat we have to beat Mac. We have to beat Google. We have to beat Sony. Like, I think they've kind of just realized if they spread themselves thin, you get people on Call of Duty on the PC with Game Pass because people have had it. But I think that people on PC will like drop off of Game Pass every so often. Like they'll get a couple months, play a couple games, and then they'll go back to their Steam backlog and then come back to Game Pass. People on Xbox, I'm sure, if they've got an Xbox and a PlayStation, they dropped off a Game Pass to just play their PlayStation for a while or something like that. I'm sure this will cause people to resubscribe for a few months, and it'll give that revenue, which will help Microsoft a lot. You're still going to get the people on PlayStation. Like if they play on PlayStation, they're not going to go buy an Xbox. They're just going to buy this game on PlayStation and play the heck out of it. I could see this being more just about growing some numbers on Game Pass, which hopefully then people are hooked on the game and then buy some microtransactions, even if it just remains free to play. Like, oh, you have Game Pass? Yeah, you can play multiplayer forever. And who knows, maybe they'll even do some other stuff where they'll connect it with like a mobile store, since Microsoft has said they're having their own mobile store come out now that on like Apple and stuff, they're going to be allowed because of all the changes going there. So it could be a strategy where it's like, hey, let's get Call of Duty kind of on everything. And if people have this Game Pass subscription, they'll be able to play it on their phone and on their Xbox or their PC, and they'll play all the other stuff. Hopefully they'll, subscribe more often to it. And even if we lose money on the initial purchase of, I don't know, $80 or whatever Call of Duty would go for, maybe people will get it on Game Pass and be like, oh, I didn't have to really pay for this. I'll buy more microtransactions since I didn't have to actually buy this in the first place. And then all of a sudden you got people, off of Steam and using that, or maybe mobile, if that was a thing. People using their Xbox again for the first while, like dusting them off. I think it'll just kind of build a bit of hype, and they're hoping that in the end it'll make more money than the initial purchases. I don't know.
I think you're totally right. I think you kind of took the words out of my mouth, and what I was going to say is like, I think you're right. I think Xbox is kind of getting out of the hardware game, and what they're really going for is they're going for your time. They want to be like, we only have so many hours a day to play video games, and they want it to be spent on their system, right? And I think you're right in the sense that they're not going for getting the console sales, but rather they want to get the microtransactions. And so by having it where I'm paying $30 a month, I don't think of it in the sense of like, oh man, this has cost me $30. It's like, hey, I'm getting this for free. I'm playing, Warzone. I'm playing Call of Duty. I'm liking this. I haven't paid any money yet. I'm going to drop some cash on this, right?
Yeah.
In the same sense, like we saw that kind of with Helldivers, where it's like, hey, this game is $50. The battle, like the war bond, is only $10. I'm going to drop some cash on that. And I think that's what they're kind of going for there. And I think you're absolutely right. The other thing that they do is by doing that, hey, sign up for 1 month or whatever. You do that for 1 month. You get one, like you said, some people who forget to like cancel the subscription or whatever. But you also get people who are like, hey, I played Call of Duty for a bit. I'm kind of done with that. I still got my Game Pass. I'm going to go check out other games. And then they start playing other games and seeing what the value is there. This might be, and I'm circling back, might be one of the reasons why stuff like Hi-Fi Rush got closed down. Great game, but very little monetization effort, right? Like, hey, it's a great game. You paid for it. You enjoyed it. Fun, but how do you, like, what's the continual revenue stream?
Yeah, it feels way more like it's not about like how much money did you make us. It's how many more Game Pass subscriptions did you nail us, or how many more eyes to the service did you get us. And I think that's where we'll probably end up talking about it next week as we gear up for all the showcases coming up next month. But I think a large portion of what's happening now, and I think Call of Duty is a big decision of that, is Xbox is, as we've talked about a couple of times now, I think they're starting to realize that they're never going to beat PlayStation at the console game. So they're starting to see like, okay, how can we get as many eyeballs? How can we get as many hands in our system as possible? And putting Call of Duty on Game Pass is arguably one of their biggest games, if not their biggest game. That's how you do it. You take your biggest golden goose and you throw it right there in people's faces and say, hey, you want the new one? Come right on in, give us X a month, and get to work on it. And if we're lucky, you'll forget about it, or you'll just find some other stuff on here and be like, you know what? This is a good service. I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah. And maybe people start playing it on like PC Game Pass. Their Game Pass runs out. They'd have to go buy the game on Steam, but it makes them start over. They lose all of their progress online and all that. And it's like, well, shoot, if I want to keep going, either I got to subscribe again to to Game Pass, or I got to buy this on the Windows Store or the Xbox app or whatever it is on Windows, where now Microsoft's getting all the money because it's their operating system and their app and their game. Like there's literally just 100% revenue across the board there. So
yeah, like there's room for them to definitely get some extra money in their pockets. It's just because we have such a lack of understanding on how this business model is actually working for them, that we're literally just it's guesswork, right? Like we have no idea if they're like, I assume they're not making money right now because when you lay a bunch. Well, actually, who am I kidding? People, we see people get laid off even when they're doing record profits. Let's not kid ourselves here. But like it just has the general vibe that it's not doing what they wanted it to do, and they're trying to do anything now just to boost up the numbers, and that's going to be the way to do it. Like there's nothing else they have that could do a bigger job of it than Call of Duty. And I know some people may not give a shit about Call of Duty anymore, but to the vast majority of the average gamer, that's a big deal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think we're also like looking at it as one or the other. And I think one thing that like, and I'd put like money on this, that you're going to see a situation similar to what we saw with Starfield, where it's, hey, you know, it's going to be available on Game Pass, but if you buy it, pre-order it, you get it 3 days early. And I think there's a lot of people who would want to get into a multiplayer game 3 days early, get that leveling up, and then just start mowing down the people who are getting it for the first time. So I think I think you'll still see a lot of people buying the game for that advancement.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And with Game Pass, they have perks and stuff. I could see them having like in-game perks where it's like unlockables where you're giving it for free, but only if you're subscribed to Game Pass and play through.
Or
that
get
way.
it first, right? Like
or get it first. Yeah, 100%. That and though I do agree.
I mean,
with
Sony
that,
used to
3
do
days
that.
early.
They used to be the ones that got all the stuff first for Call of Duty for a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's probably not happening with this one.
So that's very much what could be the advancement of like, hey, if you're on Game Pass, if you buy it on Game Pass, if you buy it on Xbox, whatever, you get it first, right? And you have a second-class citizen in Sony, but whatever.
I mean, we'll certainly find it in about a week and a half. That's for sure.
Yep, 10 days.
Gonna be interesting.
12 days.
Non-E3.
Yeah, it's officially not E3 season.
I mean, you can't even call it not E3 season. E3 isn't even a thing anymore.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like it's
it's
not
E3.
it's definitely not E3 time.
It was funnier when we were just like, E3 is just barely hanging on by a thread. Oh, it's not happening this year. Oh, maybe next year it'll come back. Now we're like, it's gone now. There's no coming back.
No.
We'll have to do. I think next week we'll do our sort of like prediction show for like.
We'll go over what's there.
Yes.
Maybe this May Sony presentation that is got like 3 days left on it. Maybe it'll finally happen. I saw another rumor today being like, oh, it's going to get announced in the next 24 hours. It's like, you're really trying. Like, holy shit.
I think what Sony's going to do is they're going to, now that Xbox came out saying, hey, we're doing our thing like first week of June, PlayStation has a tendency of wanting to go after Sony. And I can see them kind of like,
going after Sony?
Anything, and after Xbox, like, you know where I'm going with this. Anyways, I'm of the mind that like, we never got announcements, so they're not delaying anything. So the probably was planned, and then Xbox was like, "Yeah, we'll do ours in June," and Sony's like, "All right, cool, we'll do ours June 12th. Like, we'll do it."
They're probably just waiting for Xbox to bury themselves again, just so they can do like what they did with Xbox One, where they go, "Here's how you share games with your friends," and just hand a copy right next to their. Remember that?
I mean, Sony has a history. Like, I can't remember the last time Sony did a press conference before Xbox. Like, I don't know where they've ever given Xbox the chance to react to them.
Yeah, that's true. Sony's kind of had this wasn't it like the PlayStation 1, they just walked out at E3 after the Sega Saturn was announced.
Yeah, and they were just like $3.99 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was like $2.99. They just like said the price and everybody cheered and they walked off stage. Like, all right,
yeah, Sony loves to dunk on that kind of stuff. So I can see them pushing it back until after Xbox.
Yeah,
and yeah,
that's true. Xbox announces Call of Duty and Sony comes out and they're like, yes, but have you met Astro Boy?
Have you?
Astro Boy?
Not Astro Boy, Astrobot.
Astrobot.
Sure, that's when they come in and be like, hey, here's that Order 1886 sequel you were looking for.
You laugh. I would totally go for an Order 1887.
Well, that makes one of us.
Hey, it actually is a really cool game. Like, the story's really cool, and then the guns are amazing. Oh, how dare you.
Cool concept, shit delivery.
Once again, that's totally fine. Like, take the sequel and make it better. Like,
they tried that, and Act 2 still sucked.
Is there an Act 3?
Not yet.
That's the real question.
Not yet.
Not yet. That's getting announced right after Call of Duty.
No, they're going to come out and be like, Sony's like, so we hear there's a lot of hype around Call of Duty. We've got our own little thing. They bring out Medal of Honor.
Well, and that's the thing, though, is like, you know, Game Pass having a Call of Duty game, like, there's not really anything Sony can kind of do to beat that at this point, because, you know, Extra is not going to get much better. And honestly, like, Unless they're going to just come out and be like, hey, here's that SOCOM game y'all were looking for. Look how goddamn badass this thing is. And we'll all be like, cool. But how much are we paying for it? Because you're definitely going to make us pay full price for that.
We're mocking it, but like, I would go for a Medal of Honor remaster. Like, do like the first,
for sure.
like the
Yeah,
first
but that's
3.
EA.
I'd be down. Now, they're still independent. They can do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, except they don't do it well.
Yeah,
Sony's gonna come out and do a Destiny Warzone. It's gonna be a 99 player.
It's called
Destiny
Marathon.
battle. Yeah, find that.
I just say get Blue Point on making a Medal of Honor remaster.
I mean, honestly, like, if they really want to go out there, like, this would be the great time to, like, Call of Duty's finally starting to show its age. Like, it's getting to the point that even, like, longtime players are starting to get sick of it. This is your, like, if you're a big AAA studio, this is your chance to suddenly bring in a new IP to kind of take a crack at it. In the same way that we were all just praying that Crime Boss was, you know, a nice alternative, and then we all found out real quick that wasn't. By the way, hey, Chris, it's on PlayStation Extra if you want to try it now.
I don't know if I do. The backlog would be so pissed if I ignored it for that.
What, you don't want to find out if it's the 36 or whatever it is on Metacritic?
Oh, 36. That's bad.
All right, I gotta find out. I don't think I'm that far off. All right, Kaylan, just for fun, what do you think it is?
39.
I'd put it at 63.
Oh, it's definitely not 63. I can tell you for a fact it's under 50.
Are we talking like user or critic?
Okay, never mind. That's better than I thought it would be. 51.
Oh, wow. Never mind. It's a masterpiece. I should play it.
I could have sworn it was way worse. Okay, just to double check, what's the Gollum game at? Okay, 33.
Gollum
okay,
is
never
34.
mind. Maybe I was being a little bit mean to Crime Boss there, but it wasn't Gollum bad. It's pretty bad, but it wasn't Gollum bad.
Poor Gollum.
It's okay. He's getting a movie still.
Yeah, based on the game. I hope that they come out.
I mean, well, it can't be any worse.
It's not even a film, it's a documentary on the game.
I mean, I think Matt McMuscles on YouTube already has that covered.
Probably. Anyways. We'll have to see. We're 1 week away and we'll do our prediction. Well, we're a little bit more than 1 week away. We're less than 2 weeks away. But
yeah, because they're on the 9th, so we'll have at least one more episode to prep for it.
Which will be our predictions episode. So stick around like that. If you don't want to miss it, you can find it by clicking on the subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're not, you can find it by just subscribing wherever you're subscribing to. If you're on Spotify, hit the Spotify subscribe button or whatever.
That one.
Yeah.
Isn't it like a check
follow
mark
us.
or a plus
We
sign or
post.
something?
No, it's whatever button I just randomly click when I want to add stuff.
Let me do my Rickroll. Or
no.
I don't even know what it's called. I'm tired. Jet lagged, and my kid's still coming at 2 a.m. because he's jet lagged.
See, this is why I don't need you to. I'm the only one that's capable of doing an outro. I say as I have a really bad tendency to over rant when I do my outros.
PixelPlay Podcast. Subscribe, like, leave a review. Let the algorithm know that you like our episodes. If you want to be part of our chat, join the Discord. You can find us all through our socials at linktr.ee/PixelPlay Podcast. With that, we will see you guys later. Don't forget to check out our Friday show side quest, which is at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Mondays we do our randomizer.
I promised to do one this week. I forgot because I didn't have time on the weekend.
It was a holiday. Just take it that way. No, it wasn't. Was it?
No, it wasn't. No. I just didn't have time.
I'm all thrown off from this vacation. Whatever.
I mean,
bye,
technically,
everybody.
like for some of you guys being in the States, it was.
Then we'll go with that.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.